Hi, this is Louis Borrego.
And I'm Brandon Borrego.
We're the Borrego Brothers, where we talk about film, cinema, storytelling, and marketing, and everything in between. Let's get started. Oh my gosh. Yeah, let's start with the first one, Barbenheimer.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess considering that we are, film, marketing, all that, everyone's talking about it. You can't avoid Barbenheimer. Is that what it is? Is it Barbenheimer or is it Barbieheimer or?
So I think it's Barbenheimer.
Barbenheimer? Okay.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't seen Barbie, so I can't say critically about it, unfortunately. Have you seen Barbie?
Don't want to see it, really.
Well, I just hate to talk about a film that I haven't seen. I can talk about,
I'm just not that interested. I mean, I'll probably see it eventually.
From what I hear, though, it's like the thing is that, Ryan Gosling is, because I love Ryan. He's my spirit animal. I mean, he's incredible, but it looks like he's just a bumbling fool in this one. He's just a hot, sexy, bumbling fool, and he's kind of second to Barbie because the film is called Barbie.
Yeah,
and that's fine, but when it looks like it's just kind of another push at another woke agenda, and I'm kind of tired of that shit. I think everyone is tired of it. Obviously, it's so marketable because it's Barbie and it's Ryan Gosling as Margot Robbie, and they're so incredibly charming as people and actors. It's going to be hard to deny, because I saw some of the clips and it does look like he's kind of like an airhead dummy, which, can be cute.
Oh, yeah. And and that's Ken's character, Yeah. But I feel like, that's all fine. The political stuff, honestly, I can deal with a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
I can work around it as a viewer to the film, but it just seemed like the concept. It just didn't seem like there was so much so much depth there. And I mean, it's a Barbie movie, but it's like a huge movie. I was reading today that it's the biggest film in box office since The Dark Knight.
Really?
Yes, it surpassed The Dark Knight.
Oh man.
I mean, how crazy is that, dude? I mean, because you remember the fervor and the frenzy that The Dark Knight was when it came out. We're both old enough at this point to where we experienced the Dark Knight frenzy that happened way back. And it was kind of funny because Batman Begins wasn't this huge thing. It was kind of just another superhero movie at that time. I hadn't seen it since a couple of years ago, the first one. But The Dark Knight was insane. There was so much frenzy over that movie, and it's funny because it's a superhero movie, right? It's not like, because I'm talking about Barbie not having depth and whatnot, but Batman's a superhero movie, right? And that's fair. But it's just the filmmaking in that movie. I mean, I believe, and this is controversial to everybody, I guess, but I still think The Dark Knight is Christopher Nolan's best film. But Barbie, and so Barbie, I understand the hype. It's a fun, subject matter and all that, but and again, I haven't seen it. It looks like it'll be fun, but to me, it gives me more of like a Thor feeling, like Ragnarok, it's a fun theme. It's got cool people, and it's a good time, and there's some great moments, but that's kind of what it is. And I don't know. I haven't seen it. I will see it, but That's what I'm predicting it's kind of going to be, as opposed to where, A Dark Knight, that movie really deserved everything. It deserved, because it had one of the best acting performances in the past, quarter of a century.
Yeah.
You know?
I really want to see Barbie before I really say anything about it, because it's not right. I just don't, it's just hearsay from what I've heard, so I got to watch it to have my own opinions about it. But what I can say is that Oppenheimer is one of the greatest movies I've ever seen, and it's Christopher Nolan's definitely finest work. I mean, maybe below Dark Knight. I got to think about that, because I don't know. The Dark Knight, I think we watched it. How many times did we go to the theater? I think we went 7 times.
Dark Knight?
Yeah.
I went 8 times, in theaters, which is, looking back, absurd. I've never done that with any movie or even close.
I think there has been one movie that we've gone to the movie theater 3 times for.
Maybe.
I think it was... I don't remember. I just know that the Dark Knight was one where it blew us away so much. We went 7, 8 times. It's just... That's absolutely absurd. How many times we went and how well we know that movie. I mean, I know that movie so freaking well, and it was such an incredible palate cleanser for Christopher Nolan. Holy crap, man! I mean, it was a tour de force, and yeah, Heath Ledger's. I mean, Heath Ledger's performance was absolutely unbelievable. I mean, we're not saying anything new, but Oppenheimer is just next level everything. But I don't know. I don't know which one's better in terms of, because I'm gonna definitely watch Oppenheimer again, but I don't necessarily. I would go back to the movie theater and watch it again. I would probably watch it at least 2 more times. But that movie, I don't know, like. Something about The Dark Knight is just the rewatchability. What makes a film rewatchable like that?
See, I think it's just so gripping, man. It will not release you when you watch The Dark Knight. And like, look, like, dude, you put all the fucking, shit aside about it being a superhero movie. You just put that aside for that movie, because I didn't read comics. I watched some of the shows when I was a fan, Batman, when I was a kid, but that's not what I'm about. I'm not, I don't usually like them, but, and I was able to put it aside for that movie. I mean, I like Batman, but I like the movie, and like, when I watched that, like, I distinctly remember that feeling, that opening shot, and that's the thing about it. You can't really pin down so easily why that's a great shot.
Opening sequence? You mean like on the roof?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not that simple. No. Why it's so enthralling. But when I remember seeing that opening sequence on the roof and then the blasting out of the window, and just for some reason, I was just totally hooked in that movie. I was super dialed in, and I was like, this is a different experience than everything else. I'm like so into this movie.
Yeah.
And that's pretty amazing and unique about The Dark Knight. And I mean, it continues on throughout the movie.
Well, I think the other thing too is like the pacing of Nolan films is just unlike anybody else. Like even through just simple conversation, it's always obviously it's a coordination with Hans Zimmer, and they're just like this beautiful couple that just everything is just swirling, but and the way he can just move and pace through every single scene seamlessly. And honestly, on Oppenheimer, it was like kind of, you had to have stamina, like, because
oh my god, because he was pushing the boundaries on pacing.
He was, oh my god, because he didn't stop on Oppenheimer. There's never, like, there was moments of kind of slowing down, but even the slow downness when when Oppenheimer was, when the bomb was about to go off, that was probably the most slow part of the movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because it had to be. Not because I think if Nolan wanted to, Nolan had his, he always has his way. But I don't know. I feel like he could have done his own thing with. I mean, he always does his own thing. It's just strange to think that that's the only part, because it feels like he could probably do it all. Because I can't think of another slowed down part.
Yeah.
In that movie, because even the sex scenes, even the conversations, everything is just like boom.
Yeah,
boom,
he was
boom,
pushing
boom,
it
boom, boom,
super
boom,
hard.
Boom,
Yeah.
boom, 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 and it's a long movie, man. So it's like you gotta have like stamina, and the Dark Knight he did, but I think with Dunkirk, I don't think he had that pacing. I don't think he had the same pacing. Like it was a little slower and it was a little long-winded with some stuff. Or I don't want to say long-winded. I think it was almost like not normal pacing, but it was like a slower, different tempo.
Yeah, that seemed more like a traditional pace in a film.
Yeah, like I don't want to say like it is more traditional.
It wasn't slow. That was not a slow movie.
No, it wasn't slow, but it was. That's why I'm saying it wasn't like his pacing in Tenet or his pacing in Oppenheimer or The Dark Knight. The pacing of those films are significantly different than any other film, and I think Dunkirk was kind of like, it's like closer to traditional, but it's still not traditional at all. But
the pacing seemed a little more standard, as opposed to an Oppenheimer, and even a Dark Knight. Like I felt like with the Dark Knight, he had, I don't know what to call them, more maybe like ambiguous cuts, to where there's these cuts in the scenes where it's not totally resolved. Like things aren't totally resolved, or it's like in the middle of an emotion.
Right.
He makes a cut. It's abrupt, and it's like a change, like a big change. And he does that. He does that a lot with Oppenheimer. I mean, to where just things are madly cut.
Yeah.
in that film, but yeah, Dunkirk is a little more standard, and movies before The Dark Knight are, I mean, just a little more standard.
Yeah.
Then he took the pacing. He got really creative with the pacing in The Dark Knight and in Oppenheimer. But don't you think that's an underrated aspect of not even just filmmaking, but story, the pacing of story?
Yeah, 100%.
Because how much is that? And the reason I think it's interesting we're talking about it right now, but the reason I'm considering that is because I was just reading a book called The Art of Storytelling, and that's really it's one of the segments that I was just coming off of, where he was talking about pacing. He references film, but he references novels as well. And I wanted to bring this up to you because I thought you think it was interesting. Was that he looked up like or I think it was an AI. There's an AI that examined all of the top New York Times bestsellers.
Yeah.
Right. And the AI went through and it took all the top New York bestsellers and looked at the pacing in those novels, and when sort of hooks come in, so they could see like what's the key to pacing in a novel. And what was interesting was that the top two they were synonymous with each other, was 50 Shades of Grey.
Oh wow.
And the Da Vinci Code.
What?
Isn't that interesting? And I don't know if those were by the same author. I don't think they were.
No,
they weren't. Right.
No,
yeah,
they are not the same author.
Right, but they have the same pace, or like an aligned pace.
Wait,
like
are we talking about
close.
books or movies?
Yeah, books.
Oh,
books,
okay.
Books in this case.
AI analyzed the books?
It analyzed the books. Yeah, the text.
That is so weird.
Isn't that interesting?
So wait, so the AI said that the two most what did it analyze?
Those are the top two, like well paced,
Well
paced, and
Really?
they're
Wow.
synonymous with each other, like the way they space out their hooks.
And how many books did it analyze?
I think it was like the top 20 bestsellers of all time, like New York Times bestsellers.
okay.
I think that's what it was. So, obviously don't quote me on it. I'm just paraphrasing from my memory. But what's so interesting about that, I mean, wildly different books, wildly different topics, but the pacing's similar. And it's a big reason why it grips, why it grips people. And I mean,
Well, so I'm reading 50 Shades of Grey, just for research,
sure.
as they say. And that book, man, it is so self-indulgent. It is so annoyingly self-indulgent. And it is so, oh my God, just, it can be so lame sometimes from a male perspective.
Yeah.
Obviously from a feminine perspective, I have no clue, but it is one of the most popular books for women of all time. So you need to give it that respect if you want to understand a little bit of the female psyche, right?
Right.
And there is a lot to enjoy about that book. And it does have really cool pacing. Now that I think about it, I mean, cool pacing. Let me describe that. Because the way, I mean, if you read this book, man, I already know you would just like want to throw up in your mouth with some of the actual writing.
Yeah.
Because some of it is pretty like lame, but in terms of even just grammatical structure, it's like, wow, this is so. But it's like it makes sense. It's also, but the other thing I have to give it extreme credit to is that it's so simple to understand because it's so. It's just sometimes like the way because sometimes she describes her, her parts as, he grew closer to my sex. She doesn't say vagina or anything like that, or the P word, right? She says sex, and every time she does that, I just I cringe. It's very cringeworthy for a lot of it, but there is still a lot of it though. That if you get past the cringe and you understand and you kind of go with the flow, kind of like reading a Twilight book, it's like there's this cringe about it, but once you get past that cringe, you're like, I get it. It's like it's still very romantic in many ways. It's still very, and the pacing of it too. It does have really great pacing when it gets to the really juicy parts, and there are a lot of juicy parts, and it is very like, just it's like da 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 da. It's like it. There's an event like happening on the page, and there's so much tension, right? There's so much, and you feel it as a man to a woman, right? It's like. You feel it passing that ball of like, oh, I'm going to put a little of this tension in this ball. I'm going to pass it back to you. And then she puts a little of the sexual tension back, or she does something to the ball. She passes it back. And that is part of romance. Like you can feel it when you're like romantic with somebody and y'all are feeling each other and you're just kind of going back and teasing and the ball gets so big that it's like now both of y'all are inside the ball. And, there's no one else in the room. And that book does an amazing job at that tension, at creating that tension, and that tension is a big part of the pacing, the playing of two forces energetically playing with each other, and then they grow and grow and grow. Obviously, that is exactly kind of you can translate over to film. Like that is what you have to do with the story, the characters, passing the tension, the ball, creating it that energetic force of growing and growing. until it, and so I could definitely appreciate that sentiment, because it's true. I mean, obviously 50 Shades of Grey is incredibly successful and it deserves respect, and I do like it. There's just some cringe stuff. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I can imagine, but and style aside, it's pretty. It hit a lot of the key factors that it need to hit, and in a lot of ways, it was well made, just from like the conception. I mean, it's like it really like it's a great idea. It's what it is. It's a great idea, well executed, and maybe the style wasn't innovative or whatnot.
Yeah.
In the novel, or it wasn't that creative. Maybe I haven't read it, but it hit so many key factors and tapped into what so many people, men and women, wanted to hear. But I mean, obviously, especially women wanted to read, and it had it created a character that so many people resonated with, so many women resonated with, and really had a burning question that lingered throughout the whole series of books. And this is one thing that that book talks about, the art of storytelling, is that they had this this character that everybody, or that all these women could resonate with, and this key question was burning throughout the whole thing. Just everybody needed to know was, will she submit? Will she submit to him? Throughout all these books, and
50 Shades.
Yeah, 50 Shades of Grey. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's but that's a resonating question.
Is that what the art of storytelling says?
Yeah.
Will she submit to him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a question, but that's a question that resonates through all story. That's why it's so impactful. That's why it hits everybody. And even you can read it and appreciate it, even though perhaps it's not your perspective, because that's the question that's in every hero's journey. Is will the hero submit? Will they forge through to this new, greater life, or will they recess into their old ways before they began their journey? That's a question that
I think that's excellent.
It's like, I mean, it's laid out linear in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Right? Because he's like, are we going to reach it, or are we going to go back? And it's a constant question, because they shouldn't. You shouldn't be doing what you're doing. You're two little hobbits. You're gonna fucking die. But they get to they're almost there, and it's like we have to go back, and that's that. It's great drama.
It's fantastic drama, and that's the other thing too. Is like, it's simple, but it's not easy kind of formula. Where I love that. And look, take your hat off to 50 Shades of Grey, and that author did an incredible job, incredible execution, obviously, and and that's it's such a simple premise, simple question. That's also why it makes it so interesting and riveting. It's just so easy to understand, and and honestly, in that book, it's less of a question of will she submit to him, more of a question of when she'll submit to him, because it's pretty apparent that she's going to submit to him. But I think that also made it tantalizing, is like, when and how is she going to submit to him, submit to Christian, and because it's pretty obvious that she's going to, and she does in many ways, but she kind of just gives pieces, right?
Well, so where are you at in the book?
Like 235 pages.
Out of what?
I think 300 and something.
Okay, and so but that must be the thread that it dangles on, right? Is like,
it does,
because I'm
does,
sure
but I'm like, it's kind of obvious, but
I mean, yeah, I mean, obviously, you want the hero to win. You want the hero to succeed, which in that case would be her submitting, because then she'll find love, presumably. But
Right.
What irredeemable things does he do along the way? You know, because that's
Well, I think
part
that's
of that's the juiciness of the story.
Well,
It's
I
like, how irredeemable can he be?
well, here's the thing: is like it questions the ethics and morality of. I'm surprised 50 Shades actually hasn't gotten a resurgence, because a lot of that book is based on male domination of the feminine, of the masculine over feminine domination. But here's the thing, is that if you really, like, the deeper you and because I truly believe that men and women complement each other, and we are yin and yang, and it's a beautiful, it's like the synchronous, like, I believe we are amazing with each other, and that's how I think it should be. And I just hate so much of the so much of the struggle or the war against sexes. It doesn't need to be that way, and it shouldn't be that way. And that book is a great testament to how you can work together, and because like in that culture, right, that BDSM culture, is like the truth of the matter is like, because he's a dom, right, in that book, and she's a sub, right? But it's also playing against the and that's kind of like Anastasia's mindset. She's like, this kind of goes against a lot of the, like, I shouldn't be this way, I should be more independent, and I'm scared to be with him, and because I want to lose my independence, but I also like love him and I adore him, and he's like the ultimate. And then, well, and that's kind of, playing with all that stuff is like, is she going to submit because of her modern ethics and morality is kind of plaguing that situation? And then he also kind of is like the man who deserves it, who can provide and secure and make her safe, right? And he is, but it's also like, it's like she's ripping apart some of her world to be a part of his, and she's worried about ripping apart herself because she's losing some of herself, and that is part of the hero's journey, and that's what makes it beautiful, and that's why I think makes female and male relationships beautiful. But the truth of it is that there's so much power in femininity. There is power in masculinity, but it's like in that culture, as a dom, you can only, like, she has to grant you that power, right? And in that book, she has to willingly give that power to him and grant it to him. Otherwise, he's kind of just like he's a sex offender if he just takes it, right?
Yeah.
So, like, he's only powerful if she grants it, and I think that's the thing that's what makes when it's a healthy, beautiful female and male relationship, that's what makes it so powerful and healthy. And that's like, so it's like, it is about domination to a large extent, but domination through only her granting that power, and which also makes her incredibly powerful, because she is the doorway. She can't, like, she has to open the door. He can't just barge the way through, or else that's freaking illegal. You know?
Yeah. I mean, it's like, control and power, and it's a what's the word? Like, it's an ancient dance of that control and power,
right?
When it comes to sex, and it's just playing with that, and yeah, I mean, I think that it's a shame that things can get that way between the sexes, that sort of arguments. I think, largely with people as individuals, I don't think it's the case. I think it's been blown up a lot, but because I mean, I think, like, art demonstrates that you can do it well and you can do it poorly. And it's demonstrated in art. Like,
absolutely,
like the movie we just saw, Megan, I mean, when you think about it, it was like an all-female cast, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
You had a couple guys in there, but it was pretty much all female. And I didn't pick up on that until just now.
Wow. Yeah. Neither did I. That's kind of crazy.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's great. That's how it should be, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
As opposed to a Ghostbusters.
Oh, no, don't even speak its name.
Where you have, obviously, the new female-led Ghostbusters, where you have, it's so heavy-handed, and it's really just kind of centered on that.
Yeah.
That, you know, that's where you don't. But with, like, a Megan, it's done so well, like, that's, you know, people are so willing to accept that.
Well, yeah, I mean, because I think it's because it's not, they didn't, maybe they went in with the thought of, hey, let's make an all-female cast, but I don't think so. I mean,
With Megan?
yeah.
In hindsight, I would guess that it was intentional, but I don't know.
That is so interesting to even think about, because I'm like, wow, I didn't even,
It doesn't come off like that.
it doesn't come off
At
like
all.
that at all.
No.
Like, and they're not, I think the other thing too is that there was no male contentment at all.
No.
It was just telling a great story.
Right.
And I think that's why we didn't pick it, because it's like, oh, it's just a great story about, and it has just so happens to have a female cast, because that's what the story is. That's what will serve the story the best.
Sure.
And I'm like, I'm all good with it. I didn't even freaking wow. I didn't until you said something. I was like, I didn't even notice that.
I know.
Shit.
Yeah.
Wow, which
But-
is
but-
incredible.
Yeah, and the writer that's a conscious decision by the writer. The neighbor could have been anybody, but she was female.
Mm-hmm.
The daughter could have been a son, but she's female. Obviously, Megan's female, and the only male figures are, you know, the managerial gentleman who's her business partner,
Mm-hmm.
and then the other scientist or engineer guy.
Well, come to think about it, a lot of the villains were kind of men. I think, like
Yes, yeah.
but the main but the thing is, the main villain was Megan.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
you can't really say that.
No, it's not like a man hating. No.
No, it's and that's honestly that's why I'm like, well, I mean, it's an all-female cast. I mean, that's awesome. I mean, I can't really say anything about it. It's just a great story with an all-female cast. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe there was something to the boy part being such a little shit.
Oh man, that was great.
But he kind of was a little shit, you know.
Oh,
so
he was a huge
I'm like,
shit.
you
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
wanted him to get
Oh yeah, he was an
pieced
asshole.
up. You know?
Yeah.
But
You couldn't wait. That was a great part of that film.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
but I can't say it didn't really.
It doesn't raise any flags because
No,
you know the
not
other thing
really.
is that all the characters were flawed. All the characters
true.
were flawed, right? Because
Yeah.
the daughter obviously had a traumatic event. You can't really blame her necessarily, but like the aunt was terrible.
Yeah, she was terrible.
She was terrible.
She's terrible.
and she exuded that as a character, you know, which as an audience member you accept.
Right.
It's like she's so obviously flawed, and she's needs to change, which she does. They both do, which it's just what makes a great story.
I know.
Yeah.
It makes it such a great story.
Yeah.
And because I was thinking about what is the change that needs to happen for her,
Yeah.
and what was the change that needed to happen for her?
Well, you know, obviously spoiler alert, but
Spoiler for Megan.
yeah, I think at the end of the movie, I mean, I don't know. It's hard. I mean, because it's a male perspective, but I feel like she embraced that, you know, maternal role that she had been railing against, perhaps in her career.
Ooh.
So, I mean,
I think that's it, dude. I think you hit the
this,
nail on the freaking head with that one.
This
And
particular film, that is what seemed to happen.
I feel like that's like the antidote to Barbie. Ooh, I said it.
The antidote to Barbie.
I think Megan, I'm going to go out on a limb here. I think Megan is a far superior film than Barbie. because I'm gonna go out on a limb, and gosh, I hope I'm about to chop myself off.
Well, I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen Barbie. I can't say
because I don't care to see it. I don't. It just does not interest me. Like,
I know.
And like that's the thing. Like, I love Greta Gerwig, and look,
I do love Greta.
Before you judge me, if you haven't seen Little Women, don't judge me, because that is a sensational movie, and that's obviously pretty much all female and whatnot.
Yeah,
and it's a, it's like a storybook kind of film. Like, it comes from an older book, I believe, and I'm pretty sure Little Women was a children's series, I believe, like originally. But so yeah, I mean, it's like same type of deal, right? Same type of deal. But Little Women was amazing, and I love Greta Gerwig, Frances Ha, and what else? What else did she do?
She did Lady Bird.
Lady Bird, yeah, exactly.
And I love Lady Bird, man. Lady Bird
Yeah.
was sensational.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing too, is that, it broke norms, and I think that sometimes, like, you lose some of that ability to have some of your own, and that's why I get scared of. And again, I don't, props to Greta. We love Greta. I'm Team Greta. Okay. All right. It's just that I think when you get so big, there's so many other people involved that they push you to one side or the other, like, of the aisle. Whereas Greta has been extraordinarily nuanced with her storytelling.
Yeah.
And there are some things that, of course, I disagree with, but it's very difficult. I mean, Lady Bird was so heartfelt, and I loved the relationship with her father so much in Lady Bird. That was so touching. It's like she loved her dad.
Mhm.
And I think that's the other thing, that it's like, is that love lost in Barbie? That love for a male figure, and that's what I fear. And that's what I fear, because I'm like, I get it with, with some of this stuff, but it's like, if you get too heavy-handed with it, it kind of just, it really alienates a lot of the human species. So it's which is fine. I mean, I'm fine for, obviously, box office is killer, but the female purchasing power is extraordinary. I mean, it's absolutely extraordinary.
Yeah.
So
I mean, clearly, best of all time. I mean,
It's-
box office. It's the
best of all
best.
time. What?
Like, most in the box office.
Most box office? What do you mean?
Let me look it up.
I don't
'Cause
think so.
That's I read it had the best opening since The Dark Knight. What do you guess the rating is?
For Barbie?
Yeah,
On Rotten Tomatoes?
yeah, Rotten Tomatoes rating. I was,
93?
Okay, I was gonna guess 82.
What is it?
Let's see. It's 88.
Oh, wow.
So we split the difference. Yeah, 1.2 billion in the box office.
Wow. Well,
Yeah,
I mean, obviously, can't hold the candle to that, man. I mean, truly successful. What are you gonna do? I mean, and I don't want to say what are you gonna do, because, like, I love Greta Gerwig, so I'm gonna watch it. I like her. I think she's an incredible writer. Obviously, she's cemented herself as one of the best in the past decade. And obviously, having one of the best openings of all time cements her as a prolific writer of our generation, many generations. So,
yeah.
and Little Women was incredible. And
Did you see that?
Lady Bird was, no, I didn't see it. So I didn't see Little Women.
Yeah, it is amazing.
Yeah, from what you tell me,
a
it's
great movie.
incredible.
It's a
So
great movie.
I'll see that too.
Yeah. But yeah, so it is the number one Warner Brothers movie of all time.
Wow.
Top performing Warner Brothers film in the box office.
Jeez. Well, there you go. There you go.
Yeah, which is just crazy. But
She's a queen.
and one of the concepts that I thought of about or that, I thought it would be interesting to bring up was the concept of, should we make this movie now? Why should we make this movie now concept that I've heard people say, or that's how others, or what's being considered, and you can see it in movies today and the type of movies that come out, and I just hate that shit.
I hate what?
I hate that concept of like having a script or an idea and then asking, but why should we make that kind of a movie now? Like, because that's where you get all the, rah bullshit of, all kinds of different movies that have come out, and I just think, as a director, as a filmmaker, you have to do the story that compels you, regardless of, like topical importance of the current trends.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because it's like, otherwise, how does Titanic get made? How does Braveheart get made?
Yeah.
Right? How like if you're constantly thinking of like, what does the world need now? What, because that it's just so self-indulgent to me to be like, what gift should I lay upon this earth? Like that's just my thought. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't. It has to be something that compels you. I mean, maybe if maybe those two things can align from time to time,
right?
To where it's like, I'm really, really inspired to do this, and I feel like the world needs it. Then I think it's valid and it can work.
Dahmer.
Jeffrey Dahmer.
Dahmer. I think Dahmer's a case of that. Is an example of that.
The world needs Dahmer.
I think so. I thought. Having seen, I didn't see all of it because it was too much for me. But
jeez.
I thought so, yeah.
You thought the world needs Dahmer. I don't think the world needs Dahmer because it's like it's so bad for men out here right now. I think there was a terrible statistic of like 50% of men. I don't know. It was like 50% of men are afraid to approach women because of fear of looking like basically a sex offender. Mm-hmm. Just to approach women, approach.
Mm-hmm.
And those shows kind of propagate that narrative, so, and, men are way more lonely than ever before. And now, but you could say that this is our war. This is our generation's war that we have to battle because, back in the 50s, a lot of these men were dying. Men have always been disposable. And we will always kind of be disposable. Mm-hmm. That is kind of our cross to bear. It's just that instead of being, completely disposed off the earth, we're kind of disposed on the earth, until you kind of make the best version of yourself to be worthy of that as a man, which is just, and maybe that's just our cross to bear in this generation, which I think it is.
Well, so, but how does Dahmer hurt that? Because I feel like it does the opposite. I feel like although it's hard to watch and it on the surface perpetuates the concept, the story, having gone through the story, you can learn and empathize with that type of a character, educate yourself about what that entails, so you can then remedy the solution, or bring a remedy.
Well, does it do that?
The series, yes.
Like it really gets you into the mind of that character and how a man could get to that's level?
Absolutely. That's what's so unsettling about that story, is that you so deeply empathize. I know I did. Well,
how much did you empathize?
A lot more than I was comfortable with.
Jeez.
To where it's like you see his story and what he goes through, and then you look back on your life and look. I mean, hey, maybe Maybe you didn't think this. Okay, I don't know, but I certainly thought, man, there were times in my life where I was just a decision away from, not from that, because he was in a way destined for it, but just to where, like, severe tragedy and severe, like a nightmare.
Yeah.
Everybody goes through certain obstacles or instances in their life to where they're posed with a decision, and it's like you could be led down a very long and very dark path.
Well, that's interesting. I think that if it does that, then, I'll definitely rescind my opinion on it. I guess I'll have to watch it. I guess it's another case. I just have to
watch it, man. It is really rough, dude. I mean, it's a rough series. Like I said, I couldn't finish it, and it's amazing. It's really, really good. And that actor, I don't remember his name, but I love that actor. But geez,
was he from X-Men?
He was, yeah.
Oh, is that guy? It's
Silver something.
Yeah, Quicksilver.
Yes, exactly.
It's that guy.
It is him. Yeah.
Wow.
And I loved him in that.
In Quicksilver?
Yes,
he's fantastic.
Yeah, he like blew me away. I don't know.
No pun intended.
The what?
No pun intended.
Why is it?
Is that a pun?
No.
Well, are you sure? He blew me away?
Why? Does he blow something up?
Well, he's super fast. He like blew through, he
sure. Yeah. No pun intended, no.
Okay.
But he was very good in that. And I liked him the instant.
Did you know he was Magneto's son?
What?
He was Magneto's son.
Like in the story?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, interesting.
I thought it was interesting. I mean, I believe in the comics and in the movie he definitely was.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly don't remember anything about any of those movies.
I mean, I thought X-Men First Class was first class.
Right. They were all, good. That was a good series of films. The newer X-Men.
The newer X-Men, except for the last film, unfortunately. I think the last film I saw a little bit, and I couldn't even finish it because I was like, this is dog shit. But everything else, Days Future Past, I think, freaking fantastic film. Oh my gosh, and X-Men First Class was just awesome, man. It had J-Law in it, had young J-Law. Oh my gosh, can't get enough of young J-Law.
Yeah.
So yeah. But to circle back, I think like Dahmer, I think that's an interesting take. That's a very hot and interesting take. I like that. I think I am worried about that. I am worried about guys, obviously, like, I'm a dude. I have a soft spot for male, like, issues. And because I believe they feed into all issues, in society as well as female issues, but I'm not a female. So it's certainly, I like that. I may have to watch that series, because I want to see. Yeah. It is frightening how close, especially men are. Like, you are so many bad decisions away from a really tragic decision. It can happen at any point. I mean, it can happen at absolutely any point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like Magnolia plays with that concept. If I'm remembering correctly, you remember Magnolia, the Paul Thomas Anderson.
Yeah.
Film.
Which character though?
Well, I mean, it's all about like their particular instances, right? Where all their lives kind of met and changed at the same point.
Yeah. Right.
So, I mean, everybody has that point.
Don't you miss Philip?
Yeah. As an actor, Philip Seymour Hoffman.
I miss him so much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I have doubts.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, man. He was just, I miss him so much, man. Did he ever win an Oscar?
I don't know. I think he won supporting actor. Best supporting actor. I don't know if he won best actor ever.
man, it's crazy. Like I didn't win for Capote.
I don't know. I can look it up real quick.
I miss Philip so much, man. Gosh, you just never know the demons a person has, you know? And I think, and everyone's talking about this, but we're so connected now, but we're further apart than ever. But I think that can always change. You know, like lately I've been better about reaching out to people. I've been better at like talking to people randomly or even on the street. You know, I think even last night I've gotten better and better from that. That's why I've been so focused on like talking to women, you know, and just striking a conversation. If I find if I find a girl beautiful, I'm just gonna go and talk to her. Just, you know, and I'm gonna release myself from uncertainty and just be confident. And it's like, you know, and sometimes I get flat out rejected, but sometimes I get an amazing date, amazing number, and like it's an amazing time. And then, but I also do that with anyone. It's not just about, you know, that, you know, specific thing, but it's also about like just making friendships in general. You know, like last night when we were at our show for the Mellows, shout out the Mellows, right? I think I was just in a good vibe, you know, and we did a lot of good stuff, and we kind of bounded that community. We're kind of like creating a little community, you know, and it's just from like simple stuff like that anyone could do, but a lot of people just don't do it because they're just too in themselves. You know, like for example, when our good friend Jeremy from Sweet Crush, shout out to Sweet Crush, you know, incredible band here in Austin, Texas. When he was playing, and I love his music, I adore his music. When he was playing, you know, everyone was kind of sitting back a little bit. And you know what you could do? If you like the music and you think it's jamming, just go up to the front and freaking start jamming. That literally makes an artist's day. Like that, how impactful if someone is like, if someone just doesn't give a fuck, and they're just like, but you're, because like there's so much to get up there, you know what I mean? But if someone just is just, and you don't know who that person is, or maybe you do, even if you do, whatever. If you don't care and you're like, you know what, I don't care what anybody else does, I'm gonna go up to the front and I'm gonna have a good time. Yeah. That makes an incredible difference. And to that musician, even if it's just one person, that means so much to them. And you can really make a relationship closer together from that. And what happened? After, you know, shout out to Morgan from the Mellows. She's amazing. What a wonderful person. You know, because I kind of went up closer than anyone. And then Morgan was like, hey, let's go up to the front, you know? And then what happened? She grabbed you, she grabbed everyone, and then everyone migrated to the front, and it created this electric energy. And Jeremy just, boom, you could tell he kind of released himself, and he put on a fantastic show. The show was amazing. He brought down the house, you know? It was cool, man. And then we, you know, I wish I would have done that for All Wax. Shout out to All Wax. Another incredible band that we were with last night. And I will definitely do that next time, you know, because it's like, it's getting out of your comfort zone, because it is a little weird, right? To kind of go up and you're like the only one in front. But who cares, man? Who cares? You know, who cares? Who cares? It means so much to those people, and you can make new friends. And we did. We made new friends. And we like had a great time with everyone. And we were just giving off good vibes, man. And anyone can do that, you know? You don't have to have a big following on whatever. You can just be like a good person and nice, and then just have a good time. Yeah.
Well, you know, I think, you know, I'm gonna have to wrap this around towards the meaning, but I think what it comes down to is the facilitation of art and good art. And I think that's something that, you know, maybe American culture as a whole isn't as educated in. as we could be. And I think it comes down to perhaps an element of capitalism, and capitalism's, there's goods and bads about it, but there's things that we need to amend about it. But the the encouragement of the arts and the driving forward of it is so important. And I don't think it's just not talked about that much, or I don't hear much about it. If it's not something concrete, like, hey, we need to build this museum to drive forward things, But I think it's like people need to build their tastes and their education and listen to all kinds of different things, watch all kinds of different things, and especially get involved locally, because that's where people can make a difference. And if you're attending a show, if you attend shows, I mean, you can essentially like boo out the bad people and cheer up the good people. And then you avoid shitty artists who don't deserve it rising to the top. Because everybody wants to complain, right, about the Island Boys. Everybody wants to complain and shit on those guys. But why are they there? How'd they get there? Right? It's not their fault. That's what they're trying to do. But we have to be there at the source to nip that thing in the bud. And that's the people's, that's their responsibility. And so, like you said, if you're there sitting in a crowd, or if you see like a show poster, like, go check them out. Go check out the people in your area. Cheer on good art, because that makes a huge difference. It gives life to good story, which changes people for the better. That's what it does.
Absolutely.
That's what it really does. And like, just going up to the front of a show, like you said, it can be the catalyst. It rolls the snowball, and so it makes a big difference.
It makes a huge difference, man. But also you need to release yourself from the outcome too. Like, it's also just being okay with the journey and the process of it, right? And the uncertainty, because there's also a time, because there's been times where I was so cool, I was like, oh my gosh, these guys are so cool, and I'm like really nice, really sweet, and they don't give a shit. They're like, they kind of give me the cold shoulder, like I don't know you, and whatever, and then okay, well, I'll never follow you again, and that's their fault. It needs to go both ways. But that moment, but like all wax, like when I went up to them, because I genuinely love them, I genuinely love their sound. I think I am all about them. I can't wait to see them again, because I genuinely love them, and they felt that. I was like, I want to give you some love, and sometimes people they're just not ready for that. Maybe they feel too good for it or something, and then.
Well, yeah, I mean, with younger bands, it's a little tougher, because I mean, yeah, like you said, maybe they're not ready for it.
No, this was an older band that I'm talking about. I don't even remember their name.
See, older bands should know better. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and they were much older, and they were much more
well known and respected.
No, that not necessarily. But no, I don't think they were more well known.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were just older, like Austin Circuit guys.
Oh, okay.
And they just were amazing players. Yeah. But I think I saw them at the Continental Club, and I was just all about them.
Yeah. Bitter and
I guess jaded. I don't know. I guess jaded or something. But they didn't have any more of that. They just
I mean, dude, I met plenty of those people. They're just calloused.
I know, and I'm like, dude, that is so sad.
Yeah. Well, I remember. I don't even want to talk too much about him, because like he was really good. But I remember one guy, I saw it on West 6, and he released something in like the early 2000s, and he wasn't like an older guy. Like he probably released that when he was real young. He was like 18 or 19 or something, and it was a great song. It was a really good song, and he performed it like incredibly, but he's still singing that song. It's almost like 15 years later. Dude's still singing that song.
Was it a hit?
No.
Oh.
But but it could have been. And perhaps it should have been. I don't fucking know. But like it could have been.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
so
I don't think there's anything wrong
he's
with
jaded. But that's like I've met those, like you said, maybe that's what their case was, is like they felt like they should have made it a long time ago, and then now they're kind of like, whatever, I don't give a fuck. And that's what happens.
Yeah, man.
It's unfortunate.
I think because I think that makes a huge difference. It's like a vibe, man. Like, where you release yourself in an outcome. And look, it's hard I think I'm more of that. I'm an intro extrovert kind of thing. You are an introvert. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're most introverted, but you know how to open up the gates when you need to. And that's playing live, and you're still extremely kind, extremely charming to everyone, but I could tell it puts a toll on you, energy wise. It's just how it is, and you don't mean anything by it. It's just how it is. So I think it's helpful to have
just people's nature.
Yeah. It's just, and that's okay. But it's not a jadedness. It's just like it's literally like my energy, and that's why I think it's good that I'm also there where I can kind of push that extrovertedness a little bit. And then, of course, Morgan and Jacob and Dante, shout out. They're just incredible people, and they do that themselves, and they're just beautiful people. And big shout out to them because they are just unbelievably amazing people. But I can only speak from my experience, especially last night, which was just such a fun time. I think a big part of it was just releasing the outcome. I was like, you know what? Even if they don't like give the love back, which I knew they were going to, but even if they don't, like, let's just use another case study, because you want to practice. I think I'm talking to myself too, is like, I'm trying to practice that even if someone's on an elevator, I ask them, how's your day going? Even if they look like an asshole, which is bad. Like, that's my fault. Like, I don't know if this person's an asshole.
Right.
Even if they have resting bitch face, because there's been times where I'm like, I don't think this guy, I don't think
dude, that's my life.
I know. I was like, I don't think he'll like me at all.
Yeah.
But then I go in with just a cheery attitude and just, myself, and just feeling confident, and just like, hey man, how you doing? It's a total stranger. And then part of me is like, oh man, I don't think he's going to be nice to me.
Right.
And then
I've done that. I've unconsciously done that. Whereas like you put on like a mean face as a defense mechanism just because you're uncomfortable.
Right.
I've caught myself doing that. It's just nature.
It's just, it's nature. But
then someone talks to you and you're like, you're a nice guy.
You're like, oh, hi.
Yeah.
Like, oh, and it happened last night.
Yeah.
I went to my apartment, and I'm trying to practice it at all times, or I asked a bartender, hey man, how's it going? I'm just trying to be out there, and it's tough, man. It is hard. It's not an easy thing, but when you get that energy back, you're like, okay, I'm on a roll. I can kind of snowball this thing.
Yeah.
No one ever talks about, other than I guess in the men's improvement space, right? But because you lose a lot of that as you grow older, of like being able to reach out because you kind of find your people. But I don't think that's a good thing, I think it's a good thing to find your people, but I don't think it's a good thing to like lose the ability to talk to other people because you're so content with your current relationships. Because at least for me, it's like we're always looking to level up. And if I wouldn't have made friends with Jeremy, we wouldn't have had that show. We wouldn't have met All Wax. We wouldn't have gone to Sahara. We wouldn't. So it's like that one tiny relationship where I literally just was in my garage or in my apartment complex, and I just looked over and I was like, I saw he had a guitar, and I just was like, hey, what kind of guitar do you have? Like, that's literally that little conversation is the whole reason why we are why we had just an amazing time last night. I mean, it was
Yeah.
amazing. I had so many. It was a beautiful show, and made new friends. And I love making new friends. You know, it's freaking awesome. I think I'm trying to get off of my phone more and more onto people. You know, like having fun with people. So I don't know. That's my 2 cents for the day.
Well, I mean, I have other stuff listed we could talk about. I think one thing that we should end on is the screening, because we just had our screening for Tribal, and obviously no one knows listening to this, but we're film directors, and we've done shorts, music videos, lots of obviously a lot of client work in the past, but we just finished up our first film screening, and that was in DC. So we, traveled over to DC, and I think we had around 150 people show up in the theater for it. So we pretty much booked the place out, and just to kind of paint the picture, I mean, it was an amazing atmosphere. I mean, we set up our backdrop, and we had people coming in, taking pictures. Everyone was really excited, and it was a great theater with a single screen, so it was really intimate, and they had a really nice bar and servers, so everybody could have drinks and food, and it's the film is a military film, and it follows the story of 3 American heroes for during the early 2000s Iraqi and Afghanistan wars, and it dramatizes their stories creatively, and so it was just this this just huge culmination of efforts from so many people, but of course centered around you and I and Mark Kershaw, our executive producer, and so that was pretty special to see everybody get together in that theater, watching the film front to back, in a great environment, and read the reception after, the reviews of the film after. That was a pretty amazing experience. I mean, but what did you think about it?
Yeah, I thought it was incredible. It felt like a movie in of itself. I remember at the end, because we had Wade, we had Michael Gomez, Wade's band, and those are the 2 gentlemen, the 2 war heroes that were there, and I consider them friends. I think we both consider them friends, and they're just beautiful, beautiful souls. My gosh, Wade walking in with his just cute as a button pup, service dog. And gosh, that dog is a treat. I mean, she is just cute as a button, but you could tell it's they have a beautiful relationship. And then his beautiful girlfriend, I didn't get to meet her. I wish I could have.
Yeah, she's awesome.
She is obviously just a beautiful spirit in and of herself. And it was, and Wade actually sat really close to us. My mom said that during the film, Wade, he did emotionally vent. You could tell that there was a few moments where he was crying throughout the film.
I mean, how could he not, man?
Yeah, how can you not?
The story's so gripping, heartbreaking, and just emotional.
Yeah, and I commend Wade and Michael so much for their service and for going through that. No one. It's one thing to go through it, and it's also another thing to brave through storytelling it as well. This is not easy for these men. They have gone through the most extreme. There's nothing more extreme than war. That is the pinnacle of what you could do as a man, is face war. I can't think of what else.
Right.
There's nothing else.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
There's nothing else. And I think that's what this film explores is, something that Wade says is, that I think I heard echo through everyone, which I think obviously Wade is also a prolific speaker too. I think he could be an incredible speaker, and he speaks so beautifully throughout the film. Everyone does, and he of how the government does a great job of making soldiers into killers, but not a great job of returning them back to society.
Right.
But he gives such a nuanced take, because it's not hating so much on the government, it's not hating so much on people. It's a nuanced, complex analysis that I think is just beautiful. That Wade, and what was so amazing is because we're at the end, right? At the end of the film, where Brandon and I are sitting down, and we're just kind of on the edge of our seat, because our biggest thing is we don't want to be disrespectful to these men.
Yeah, I was thinking about that during the screening while it was playing at the end.
Yes.
Because I think so. I saw one older gentleman walk out right during the film, and I was like, "Oh shit!" I was like, "Oh man,
was he the one with the bag?"
I think so.
Like
yeah,
HEB bag.
Yeah, I think so.
Or not an HEB bag. It was just a grocery bag.
Yeah, some type of bag. But I thought, oh man, we pissed that guy off. Like, he was upset by the message in the film. Yeah. But then I saw him come back.
I know, yeah. I was like,
were you thinking that same thing?
Yes, I was a little worried. I was like, oh my gosh, man. Hopefully,
I know he's gonna think we're disrespecting
the men, and that is obviously a terrible nightmare, and that's also the kind of risk you run when you do shit like this. It's like, you work a whole year, and what if it just bombs, and what if it just hurts people?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that is the great fear with this important of a message. I mean, there's few more important. There's messages,
nothing. Yeah,
So
I think, and shout out to Mark Kershaw, because just an incredible man, incredible father, and an incredible businessman. And we also consider him a very dear friend. And that's the thing, is like, at the end of the film, because part of me was like, is anyone going to clap? And because it's like, you kind of want people to clap just so that it kind of releases the tension in the room. Which I don't even think there really was any tension. But I think
no tension, just sort of a brewing of energy.
Right, and I'm like, I don't. Is this positive or negative energy? And like a G, the first man who claps, first person, is Wade. And I was like, oh my gosh, man, that makes me. That almost makes me tear up, because it's like, I looked over at him, and at first I was kind of like, oh my gosh, this, I guess, is not that good, and because I don't want anyone to force anything. But I saw Wade was just, he like wiped his eyes, and he looked beaming, and then he just stood up and just clapped super hard, and was like, and I was like, wow. And then everyone started clapping and gave a standing ovation, and I was like, it's kind of just like, okay, I can breathe. Oh my gosh, And then we walked over, and Mark motioned for us to go on stage and talk about the film. And then it was such a beautiful moment, because I think we both hugged Wade at the same time. Right?
I'm trying to think.
I think it's one after the other, actually.
After the panel?
No, right after the film, when we were going up to the stage.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I think so, yeah.
And he said, beautiful film, boys. Yeah. Beautiful film. Mm-hmm. And you could tell he was still kind of, he
was stirring from the ending.
Yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, and then we went up into the panel, which was one of the best parts for me. I mean, I really enjoyed hearing everybody's thoughts, hearing the audience's questions, and that they were so focused on the mission and the message of the film.
That was huge.
Which is beautiful, and especially in a documentary, that's what you want to happen. In a film, I guess you want more of like a theoretical discussion, but in a documentary, perhaps more of a direct action to be.
It's true,
which was great. But You know, one thing I didn't get to say in the panel that I wanted to say was that, you know, while we had such a great audience, such a great group of people, you know, watching that film, there was one man who was missing, which is Omar Hernandez. He was not in that audience, and he should be. And it was such a shame to me that, like, you know, we could see all this reception and, like, really the fruit of, you know, obviously it's not the fruit of their labors, because they that's not what they did it for. They didn't go into the service to, you know, necessarily to get rewarded. Like, those men went in because they felt it was their duty.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So they're not sitting at the end waiting for fruit to be given to them. But as a civilian, as, you know, just an American citizen who like, you know, loves, respects the country and the people who fought for it, you know, at least for these three gentlemen, this was something we could produce that honors that. And, you know, that audience was in part there to honor them.
Yep.
And, you know, Omar couldn't receive that. And that's unfortunate, because during the making of the film, he was imprisoned for murder. And, you know, what most of us believe was you know, an incorrect decision by a rushed jury. It took just a couple days to convict him. And, you know, while there was a man who was threatening his family with a gun. And so one of the Omar Hernandez is one of the interviewees in the film. He wasn't able to be there, but you know, eventually he'll see the film, and, you know, we can send him clips of the reception. And I'm also, I mean, you know, I'm sure we're both excited about the small interview segment we did with little Omar, who was there to see the film. And he's, you know, he's old enough at this point to have an opinion on it. And that was really great and powerful, because I know he'll bring that message to his dad, which means a lot to me. Yeah.
It means a lot to me too. You know, we were interviewing him afterwards, and he just was so, you know, I was getting choked up, you know, especially on the question of, you know, what would you say to your dad right now after seeing the film? And that was pretty tough. It's even hard to even talk about, but, you know, because his dad's in prison right now, and I can't even imagine that, you know, and this is a man who has saved so many lives, and taken bullet and literally nearly lost his legs to save people's lives. So to just dismiss him as some prisoner is wrong. And you know, we will learn more about the situation, and hopefully of things to come. But at least Omar in spirit was there, and Omar's son could be there, you know, to represent the family, and I believe, yeah, and so Omar's family was there, so that was beautiful, and honestly, that made so much of it worth it, because now his son has something that he can point to and look at and love and see, like, this is my dad. My dad did this. You know, my dad is a hero, no matter what anyone says. And I love that so much. You know, so hopefully we can kind of get the word out. People can learn more about the situation, help that family, you know, is with whatever is possible to help them with. And it was beautiful to see the mission, especially at the end. Everyone was, like, interested in the mission. I love that no one was really interested in how it was made.
No.
But
they could
care less.
Which is great. I mean, like, you know, they maybe a different audience, right? Perhaps be interested, like a film festival audience will be interested in the making of it. but they were focused on the mission. They wanted to help. Like, what can we do to help?
And that really is the most important thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's totally cool. Yeah, maybe at a film festival. That's the best outcome. Maybe the film festival would be like, hey, what'd you shoot it on? You know?
Sure.
But
yeah,
it's okay.
Even at a film festival, if everyone was like, you know, I don't care how it was made, I want to know how I could help. That's actually
the
best.
And that really is. You know, I don't want to be selfish or greedy, but that really is the best thing.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about it.
It'd be nice to talk about it, you know, and be like, yeah.
Someone wants to know something, you know, from the directors, perhaps. But
no, the outcome is the most important thing. So it's all good. As long as the message gets out, that's just the most important thing.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
we got some things cooking in the fire. I mean, markers are ready.
On to the next one.
On to the next one, man. And I'm like, oh my gosh, can't even breathe. But it's all good. It's all good. We got like, now we got scripts cooking up. Now we're going to do a fictional narrative. And it's time, baby. It's time for the next step. I'm like, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. And the beautiful thing is that there was, relationships were healed. Things, you know, talks were made. That film has its own legs. People are almost taking that film off of our hands at this point.
Right.
And kind of running with it, like, oh, well, I'll do this, do that, do that. I'm like, oh my gosh. And I've never kind of felt that before, of somebody kind of almost like taking it as like their own thing, you know? And I thought that was pretty crazy to experience. I was like, well, that's kind of like our baby. You know, you're taking it.
Right.
But that's okay. That's kind of what it's supposed to happen. And it's kind of like that thing, you know, that it's kind of its own thing now. It needs to grow up. It needs to get out of our hands and move and go and grow.
Yeah.
And it's so weird to experience that. And sometimes people are like, they talk about the film and they don't even know, or they were like talking about film, what it needs to do. And they were like, we don't even know who these guys are, you know? And I'm like, oh my gosh. And we're most
of the people didn't know who we were, which was really cool. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of weird. But they were like, but the film is incredible, and tribal is its own thing, you know. And like they talk about tribal as like almost a movement now. And I'm like, okay, well, you know, we had a part in it, you know, but the movement is truly what the mission is what's most important.
Absolutely,
so it's all good.
Yeah, it's awesome. Well, are we wrapping this puppy up?
Yes.
Cool.
Yep. So this was the first episode of the Borrego Brothers Podcast. Thank you all for listening. So happy that for anyone that listens, this is just a lot of fun to us. And I think it's great to like, this is another way of networking with other people. You know, we're going to bring guests on too. We have a few guests prepared. It's going to be super fun. And you should do this for your business too. I know everyone has a podcast these days, quote unquote, but I think it's a great way to reach out to your own network, talk about network, and advertise for other people, and talk about things, and have great conversations.
Yeah, I mean, I love furthering the discussion. I mean, you know, if anyone wants to, you know, comment on things, email, you know, anything about any of the topics in the podcast, I'd love to talk about it, and I'll respond.
Yeah.
Definitely.